Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show sponsored by Unibet. This is the Cheltenham Festival Day 2 preview. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding, Ed Quigley and Danny Archer as we look ahead to the Wednesday's racing. Thank you very much to Unibet as ever for sponsoring this. If you aren't a Unibet customer, click on the link below for a sign-up offer. Deposit £10, money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses, plus a £10 casino bonus as well. T's and C's to apply. As I say, you can find the link in the description below. We've already done our day one preview, so if you're watching this before the Tuesday's racing, press pause, go back and watch that. We exchanged some pleasantries at the beginning of that while we spoke about the weather and the rest of it. So we're going to stop. We've been here already. We're not going to bother doing that again. We're going to get straight into the racing, and we're going to go through the card on Wednesday in chronological order, starting with the Ballymore Novices Hurdle, where Impaire Et Passe is the 2-1 favourite. A sea of blue on oddschecker as well this morning. Elmaze Allen is the 11-4 second favourite. Gaelic Warrior 4-1. Good Land is 4-1. Facile Vega, who will not, we don't anticipate, be running here, 6-1, 7-1, bar those. Andy, you've got the novice hurdle record is pretty strong. We had a strong selection for the Supreme. Mm-hmm. What do you got for us here?
Well, I'm trying to block out all the noise about Impaire Et Passe. I think if you listen to all the good Irish judges and all the previews over the other side of the Irish Sea, this has only got to go down and come back. There's going to be a huge amount of support for it if there's not already is. It could go off ridiculously short. Again, being, like I say, a time man, I've just got to focus my attention on what he's actually achieved on the clock so far. And that's not to say that he obviously can't run to a better level than what he has done already, but he just hasn't done the kind of numbers that some of the horses that are bigger than him in the market and in around him in the market have done yet. So, like I say, I've just got to back off the hype and stick to my guns and go with the ones that have already proven themselves in good, strongly run races already, and he hasn't. I think Gaelic Warrior is very much an interesting runner in every essence, because I think the only price he wasn't quoted for about 2 or 3 weeks ago was to win Sports Personality of the Year. He literally was in every single market. And I think they've finally fallen down on the right race for him.
Yeah.
I think he wants to step up. His time figure and his sectionals in particular didn't stack up as well as the other races on the card when he ran at the DRF. It suggested he was the slowest of the 2-milers, even though he won that handicap in impressive fashion. So I think going up to 2.5 miles or so, I certainly buy into the fact that he does have a bit of a default position and jumps out to his right, although that was ironed out to a degree up until the last hurdle. He
jumped better.
He jumped really nicely. I watched his round and jumping again this morning. It was really good up until the last. So I think if he does go out to the right, he'll go out to the right again at the last if he's there. But at least there's a rail on his right-hand side for him to run up straight after he jumped the last. It's not like he hangs to his left and he'll do a run for free and go the other way across the other side of the track. I think that would be a worry. So I think Gaelic Warrior is probably a bigger player than his odds suggest. I think in the pocket's an interesting runner as well. I think he'll be suited to step up in trip. He obviously got outpaced behind Elek in the Grade 1 over 2 miles at the DRF. But he, prior to that, beaten a very strong stayer, 3-card Bragg in the Navan Novices Hurdle over 2.5. And I think that form line gives him a chance. You could throw in, numerous others with a squeak. I'd be against Hermes Allen based on several facts. I don't think he's beaten anything yet. The horse of Twist and Davis's that he beat at the Cheltenham meeting got lapped by Good Land at Leopardstown. It depends on which form lines you want to go on with the Chala Hurdle.
Yeah.
Passing well, got battered at Haydock. He was 4th. The second's run well since. Marble Sands won. Thomas Moore's won. It all depends, like I say, which way you want to go with that. But the damning stat is that all 20 Chala Hurdle winners this century have all got beat. Stage Star.
There's an argument to run him in the Albert Bartlett here.
I think that'd probably be the race for it, because the Albert Bartlett horses that have run well or won the Chala have done better.
Paul Nicholls saying Albert Bartlett, not a race he likes, chaser for the future, don't want to overcook him, etc., etc. That's what I gathered. But he would be incredibly short price in the Albert Bartlett, wouldn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, Stage Star, Brayman's Game, Champ, parlour games, Taekwondo Soy, Fingal Bay, Rev de Sivola, Diamond Harry, Denman. These are the horses that won the Chello. They've got beat.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me that Hermes Allen's a better horse than Denman. And I think this race is a stronger race than we've seen for quite a while. And I think it'll go to the Irish. So I've already backed Gaelic Warrior.
When Nicanor beat Denman, let me down for 4 figures at the time.
I can imagine it did, yeah.
I was going to wipe the student loan out totally.
Bitter memories.
Yeah,
and I think in the pocket will be...
Lucky you having student loans only 4 figures.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just inflation. Yeah. Showing my grey hairs a bit.
And obviously you were out of pocket, so in the pocket would be my each-way choice closer to the time if firms go for places on the day if there's enough runners.
In the pocket, 12 to 1 as it stands now. Ed, where do you see the Ballymore?
Can't make head or tail of this, to be honest with you. What I would say is I would be running Impaire Et Passe in the Supreme. I'd love a match bet Impaire Et Passe against Facile Vega because I'd be all in the wheelbarrow on the double green. The Moscow Flyer has traditionally been a springboard to this race for Willie Mullins. I think he's run 5 of his last 6 Supreme winners or some crackers record in the Supreme from the Moscow Flyer. Whatever reason they're going this route. I thought he coped with the drop back in trip fine last time out. I'm going to leave it to the day and play prices. The one who just seems to be a little bit forgotten about and is drifting after he was well backed is Good Land.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they ran him over that kind of niche trip, didn't they, in Nathaniel Lacey of 2 miles 6. And he was pretty keen early doors, but he cruised through the field like a good horse. I think he'd be suited to the demands of this race, kind of switched off a strong pace. But I'm going to play prices at the last minute, to be honest with you. If Good Land went out to 6 or 7 to 1, I'd probably back him each way. But I'm not going to lie to you, I've got no strong views on this contest.
No strong views for Ed. Danny, have you got anything for us?
Irish trainers won this race 11 times since 2008. You know me, I love these stats.
Yeah,
Willie Mullins has trained 5 of them,
yeah,
including Faheen and Sagarhard. Interesting what Ed says there about the Moscow Flyer, because I think Mikel Dagenet is the last one to win the Moscow Flyer en route to Ballymore glory. The only concern, I suppose, for Impaire Et Passe backers, no 5-year-old has won this since 2013. But I think stamina-wise, he was seeing at the trip well over 2 mile free when he won at Naas on his Irish debut.
He's
the hype. He's the hype horse. It's whether you want to get on the hype. I'd probably be with Andy at a price within the pocket. Free Card Bragg badly needs 3 miles, and he got outpaced on the run for home at Navan. But I still like the performance, and then there was no crabbing the effort behind it. Elek Tomp last time out is a horse that I think needs this trip and would be one to know. The only thing with Hermes Allen, building on that as well, Nichols is 0 from 20 in the race. I mean, everything is pointing against Hermes Allen. So let's see. The only other one, very quickly, is Champ Kylie, because he won the Lawlers of Naas, and Envoy Alain and Bob Ollinger both won the Lawlers of Naas en route to this. And he was 4th to Marine Nationale in the Raw Bond. So maybe he can improve, but I'd probably be in the pocket. But I wouldn't be. I'd like to see Impaire Et Passe win if they really believe he is this hype.
Interesting stuff, in the pocket there. Probably the one to side with from both Andy and from Danny. 12 to 1, that is with Unibet, the each-way play. Willie Mullins comes into this one with a few chances, as you say, with a magnificent record in the race. Onto the Brown Advisory now, the novice chase, and we're going to have a bit of a fight between our panel here, with 2 of the best bets coming in the race against each other. Gerri Colombe is the 7 to 4 favourite. Mighty Potter still in the race at the moment, 100 to 30, but we expect to come out fairly soon. The Real Whacker is 9 to 2. Sir Gerhard 5 to 1. Time Hill's also 9 to 2. Then Gaillard de Mesnil, who we expect to run on day 1 in there too. These fields will obviously cut up a fair bit. But Long Shot Ted, no longer. Gerri Colombe, the best bet.
Yeah, changed my Twitter handle, haven't I, really? Yeah, that's all gone up in smoke.
Lose the blue tick.
Oh, I might lose everything if he doesn't win. Yeah, absolutely. Gerri Colombe, I think he's more or less, I would say, bomb-proof. No horse ever is at Cheltenham. But again, this is going to be buying or selling at 6 runners. I don't think he's got a great deal to beat here. I mean, the horse has never lost a race. And I was really impressed with his run at Sandown last time out. On all the fears beforehand with the ground was going to be too quick for him. A lot of the jockeys saying it was dead. It was just on the slow side of good, a bit of good to soft. And he looked a bit tapped for toe, but I thought for a big, gangly, ungainly sort, he jumped really well around Sandown. I thought it was really encouraging on a track that I don't think would have played to his strengths. And when he was needed to go through the gears and kind of find that turbo, he did up the hill. He's going to thrive over 3 miles and fences. It's going to be a small field. He's going to get a good sighter. By all accounts, I can't imagine he's going to get quicker ground than he got at Sandown, and he coped with that fine. He's going to prove for this proper test of stamina here, and I'm struggling to find many flaws in him, to be honest with you. You go through the rest of the field, I said, I think there's only real kind of on paper 3 creditable rivals. The real whacker, Andy will come on to in a minute. I just wonder if, the collateral form through Montmoral does have quite a bit to find with Gerri Colombe, for all that he is a good jumper. Time Hill is admirable, but I just wonder if, I don't want to call him a nearly horse. I think that's unfair to him because he's been a brilliant servant to connections, but I just wonder whether he's going to find one too good again on the day. So Gerhard is the massive joker in the pack here, because on peak hurdle form, you'd be giving £20 to Gerri Colombe. He'd be giving 9 stone to the real whacker. You know what I'm saying? He's a 2-time Grade 1 winner at the Cheltenham Festival. But the amazing, you're the stat man. I'm probably going to steal this out of your 19,000.
I haven't got one on him.
Right. Willie Mullins has never in his training history sent a horse to the Brown Advisory on the start of one chase run.
Really?
Yeah. That is a stat. So it's almost a bizarre preparation for Sir Gerhard to come to. Now, I think in part that wasn't by design, because he had a setback at the start of the season, so they've had to kind of make up time. But look, on raw ability, he is probably the best horse in the race, but I couldn't be having him at 9-2 on the count of just one chase start in essentially a 2-runner race. And I just think this is an open door for Gerri Colombe. He's my idea of next year's Gold Cup winner. I think he jumps, he stays. He's more versatile in regards to ground than perhaps people are giving him credit for, and proved that to a large extent last time out. I think he'll thrive over 3 miles. Yep, I've taken my long shot goggles off for this one, George. The Faverbacker goggles have come on, and Gerri Colombe, my best bet on the Wednesday. As unoriginal as it is, I'd be disappointed if he was turned over.
7-4, Gerri Colombe, but taking him on is Anne.
He could start a lot shorter than that as well, to be honest with you. This goes a 5-runner race, and I wouldn't be shocked, the wave of Irish money, if they've been mopping up over the first day, and Impaire Et Passe has just routed everyone. You could easily see him going in the day 2 multiple, and if he was going off 11-8, 6-5, something like that, it wouldn't shock me in that way.
But taking on Gerri Colombe is the real whacker, who, Andy, is your selection for your best bet on the day. You look at the field here, it's Gordon Elliott, it's Willie Mullins, as you'd expect, Philip Hobbs, of course, with Time Hill, Patrick Neville with a possible one that's creeping under the radar. Yeah,
again, similar to Ed, I think Gerri Colombe will start shorter. I also think the real whacker will start shorter, because there is only going to be 5, 6, 7 runners, etc., etc. Lots of stats here that suggest you can even whittle it down further than that, which again I think adds more weight to the fancies of Gerri Colombe and the real whacker. I think the win will come for one of those two. All bar Don Poli, the last bunch of winners were aged between 7 or 8, which rules out Time Hill. The last 22 Quarto Star winners have all got beat here as well, which rules out Time Hill on that. And he only beat them Fabulous, for goodness sake. So I don't fancy Time Hill, so that's him out of the way. But the one important stat which I think tips the balance in the real whacker's favour is 10 of the last winners have run at Cheltenham. And Gerri Colombe
he's
yet to run at Cheltenham.
He's an excellent jumper.
Yeah, he's the best jumper in the race. And I think that counts for a hell of a lot when you're dealing with fine margins in these Grade 1s. Something that can jump well, save ground at the fences, have breathers around the tight bends, because it's the inside track rather than the long track, the old course, the new course, sorry. He's just been pinpoint accurate on his 2 rounds at Cheltenham. He's won on both tracks. His time figure when he won the Dipper was exceptionally good. Now you could look at it and think, well, Montmoral loosed the form down, which Ed's used as a stick to beat him with. But if you look at Thunder Rock, who was further behind that day, he got relatively close to Gerri Colombe. And I think Thunder Rock's a really good benchmark, because I don't think Montmoral ran his race that day at Sandown. He was very easy to back. There was something not right about Montmoral that day. Whereas I think Thunder Rock, to my eyes anyway, ran his race. I actually think Thunder Rock could easily finish in the frame here. If you're looking for a bet now, as we're speaking, in the eventuality of there being less than 8 runners, I think Thunder Rock at 14s, or whatever he is, 3 places is not a bad bit of business because I think he could easily.
I think Connection's saying
box
the 50-50 whether he waits for entry or not. I think that's probably the reason. That's factored into the price, I imagine.
But he stays really well. He's looked as though he really needs 3 miles on his last 2 runs. Outpacing the Dipper ran on, outpacing the Silliars ran on. Sir Gerhard again, agree. I think one running a 3-runner race at Gowan's not enough evidence with him. Certainly massive risk if you're backing him at 4-1. Goodness me. Yeah. You've got Real Whacker who's run 2 faster times and has ridden around Cheltenham twice, and he's 9-2. So totally respect Gerri Colombe. When he won the Silliars, I thought, wow, that's a good horse. You just knew that you'd seen a good horse that day, and I'm not knocking him in any way. I don't want to take on Gerri Colombe by laying him, but at the prices, Real Whacker at 9-2, I think you'll get a great spin out of that.
Yeah, Real Whacker 9-2. They're currently 3rd favourite, but of course Mighty Potter's come out amongst many, many others, and you're getting a 5th of 3 at this time. You'd think hopefully an each way bet too. Well, you're certainly going to have a good part of the place part if you back each way.
Luckily it's non-running no bet because there's half a chance that Connection's rather crazy to go down the Gold Cup route, which mathematically does make sense. You're 2nd favourite to win the Brown Advisory in a small field when you're going to get an uncontested lead. You're 2nd favourite. You're going to run in the Gold Cup with about 15 front runners in, and you're 50-1. I mean, come on. It's just, you've got to play the percentages, haven't you?
Danny?
I'm happy to let Holding versus Quigley dust up happen, really. I'd probably just side with
wrong weight divisions, though.
yeah, very true.
Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, isn't it? Yeah. We'll do as many clicks on paper.
Who's the pro and who's the YouTuber?
Well, he's the pro. He's got it.
No, I'd probably be with Gerri Colombe just. I think obviously Ed has made the case over the inadequate trip last time out, and the ground is the only thing I was worried about. But if you read a few previews, I think Dennis O'Regan rides this horse a lot at home, and he's not as concerned about the ground as a lot of people are.
He was in a novice hurdle last season, was it? In Nace, it may have been, and it was officially good to yielding in places, and he was jarred up afterwards. So I think that set the alarm bell. That's why he missed the Cheltenham Festival last year.
Yeah.
So I think straight away it was kind of knee-jerk. Keep him away from good. May just been a total coincidence. As I say, at least that Sandown ground was officially pretty much the quickest he run on over fences, and well, he coped with it fine, didn't he?
Yeah, and Time Hill was boosted by the cheek pieces last time. Maybe helped him focus a bit more, but I think Andy's stat kind of rules him out really. And Micheal Nolan, it's a big ride for Micheal Nolan now. Tom O'Brien is out, and Sir Gerhard, just after that one run. The only thing I was going to ask Andy, I mean, trained by Patrick Neville, if he was trained by Willie Mullins, would the Real Whacker be a much shorter price?
Well, obviously, yes,
that's
he
what
would
I mean.
be.
The trainer is involved in the price.
Yeah, I think bookmakers are fairly respectful of the Real Whacker. I think we're thinking I'm thinking he should be shorter based on more evidence than him just being with a small trainer. He's won a Grade 2. He's won a Grade 2 around Cheltenham. He hasn't been been doing it around Catterick and Mickey Mouse races away from Grade 1 track. So, but yeah, he would be. Yeah, if he was a Mullins horse, of course, yeah, he'd be. You couldn't put a price on it really. Be very close. He'd be almost close to favourite.
9-2 as it stands. On to the Coral Cup now. This is one of the races where Unibet are paying extra places for the Coral Cup and the Grand Annual on day 2, amongst others across the week. So keep an eye on those extra places. Coral Cup here, we've got Camprond is the 13-2 favourite ahead of Run for Oscar and Hot on Color, who are both 7-1. HMS Seahorse 8-1. Langadan 10-1, just ahead of Winter Fog and 3 Car Bragg, both 9-1. Brandy Love in there still at 10-1, but as we say, these fields will cut up as we get closer to Wednesday. Didn't have a selection for us in the last, Danny, so I'm going to come to you first here.
I fancy one at a big price.
Yes.
I think there's 2 that I would be with. Camprond is laid out for this race again, isn't he? But he's well fancied for it. He's off a £2 lower mark here, and the ground has been against him in the first 2 starts this term before it all happened too quickly for him over a sharp 2 miles at Musselburgh. So you can understand why people have latched onto him. I'm with Beacon Edge, Noel Mead. That's the one I'm
a sea of blue on oddschecker.
Big into. It is a sea of
is
blue.
That you?
I think because I'm on at 20s, but I think Noel talked it up in the week as
14-1.
But he hinted at a revival when third in the Boyne Hurdle last time out. And if connections have got him anywhere near to his best, he'd be a player. He's off 147 here. He's got a career high mark of 158. He's run in stayers hurdles. He's run in big races over fences. I think so. He was never as good over fences, I thought. But that was a revival. So probably him. And I wouldn't rule out the Paul Nolan horse, HMSC horse. I know he's a bit young, but he's probably the other one. So HMSC horse, but my main fancy is Beacon Edge at a bigger price.
Beacon Edge 14-1. Ed?
Well, once bitten, twice shy, isn't it? So we rewind about 14, 15 months ago. Camprond at 33-1 was my tip for this race, and backed into tens. And then, well, we all know
you weren't doing the rain dance, were you?
Absolutely not. I just remember sitting there drenched on Champion Chase Day. The Amazonian rainfall comes in, and he ran a stormer to be fourth, given that the ground was...
Antipose, you in F3 places, didn't you?
I was on the nose, mate. On the nose, absolutely. Yeah. On the nose, 33s, goes off 10s. It hasn't rained for about 7 months, and then game over. He ran a cracker. To get him in here £2 lower is fantastic, considering he went to punch us down on nice ground and absolutely set the record straight, didn't he, when he got his surface. Chatted to Aidan Coleman about him. He said, look, one of the most ground-dependent horses he's ever sat on. Clearly off 138, even on last year's running, he is handicapped to go incredibly well. But I say, as the law of sods, I am now getting incredibly nervous about the weather. Anything worse than good to soft, and I think there's an argument just throw a slip and put it in the bin. So I've got vested interest. I'm on Camprond at 33-1 again for this year's race. So I'm going there with an umbrella and hoping I get sunburnt, essentially, is the angle I'm coming through. So, yeah, he's now in he's 7-1 market leader. He's been well found. His claims are obvious. I think he's incredibly well handicapped, but he is incredibly ground dependent. So other than that, I think outside of it, I'm masked, shall we say. So Camprond, and I hope the ground's good.
Andy?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got an impartial view on this race because I haven't backed anything in it.
At 33-1.
Well, I mean, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it, to tip a horse that you've backed anti-post, and obviously you have to flag it up, don't you? Even though he's 6-1, but you couldn't advise anyone to back it at 6-1. You'd be in the 30 farm, wouldn't you? I mean,
I want 6-1 for good ground at this rate.
Yeah, you want good ground. If it's soft, he's $1 million, and it's not as if his form this season has he's shown anything. I mean, he was absolutely he jumped terrible at Musselburgh. He was awful the time before. I must admit, once I don't see it, I kind of get it, but
it's been about 1 day with him.
Oh yeah, I come back him at 6-1. Just ridiculous. I think Run for Oscar's a very interesting runner. I know Charles Burns has tipped up quite a few of his horses this week, and Shoot First is a big player in the per temps by all accounts. But I do like Run for Oscar. He absolutely made mincemeat of a good competitive field at Newmarket in the Cesarewitch. He was ridden very confidently that day, was last with 4 furlongs to run, and within 2 furlongs he was in front on the bridle. He's got a really good cruising speed. He's obviously been campaigned for this. He's got no other entries. They didn't try to qualify him for the per attempts. They didn't even look about running him in the Stayers Hurdle when he could have gone down that route. He carried top weight in a viciously competitive 3-mile handicap at Haydock early in the season, ran really well on soft ground, finished 3rd in a good field. And then he ran in a conditions race last time on heavy ground, which he absolutely hated, and he hasn't run since. I think they're more than happy with his mark, 147. Hopefully he won't need snookers for this race. Sorry,
no.
Sorry.
I'm waiting for the waiting where we're going.
Yeah, you needed satellite delay to get that.
No, I'm still listening.
And you know, he comes here relatively fresh. I like his chances. He could also, similar to Camprond, not quite as ground dependent as Camprond, but he would prefer nothing worse than good to soft. Soft would be okay, but if it went really ridiculous, then I think might sort of scupper the bet. I haven't backed him yet because I think a lot of firms, particularly in this race, when there's 30 run a maximum field or whatever it is, they'll be going 5, 6, 7 places on the day. They'll be, fighting for your business. So if he's somewhere close to 7-1 on the day with those offers, then I'll be more than happy to get involved.
So yeah, 7-1 with Unibet as it stands now. Before we move on, where do we expect Langadan to pitch up after being brought down after that massive gamble last year in the Martin Pipe last year. Still holds the
Martin
entry.
Pipe.
Yeah, well, they started the rumour that they were going to go Coral Cup last week. That rumour started, but he is a Martin Pipe fanboy, isn't he?
Yeah. I'd be
fell
shocked.
in the race last year, was beaten by Galloping de Champs the year before.
Yeah.
I can't see why they wouldn't go back.
I'm
not sure who started those rumours.
Long
but they
odds
were
on he
Twitter.
runs in the Martin Pipe, I would have thought. Yeah.
I think looking at, there's kind of money queuing on the exchange at about 14-1 still for the Coral Cup. So it doesn't seem like it's a foregone conclusion. But I think 10-1 for the Coral Cup and 10-1 for the Martin Pipe. You probably think wherever Langedan does go, probably won't be going off 10-1, £4 higher than the mark last year when obviously he went and, after being brought down in the Martin Pipe, won at Aintree in impressive style. So maybe one to keep an eye on. Champion chase time now, and Edwardstone and Energumene are 7-4 joint favourites here, with Editor de Gite at 9-2. Gentleman de Me is 7-1. Blue Lord 9-1. 20-1 bar those. And Danny, you said earlier you're in a relationship with an Irish girl. In the first episode, you put up the British horse in a match at the top with the Irish Raider. You're doing the same again here. Edwardstone at 7-4. You're on that. What does that say about you?
I've got to stick loyalty to Britain, haven't I? Forget the Anglo-Irish relation. It's all about England. Listen, Energumene's got every chance, and I suppose the more rain that falls, it's going to help his chances as he looks to, back up his win last year. However, he was beaten when he made that mistake in the Clarence House. I wasn't that impressed with it anyway. Gentleman de Me advertised his claims for the contest in the Dublin Chase. Blue Lord's going to go for the Ryanair by the looks of things. And Editor de Gite won nicely when winning the Clarence House. He got a good ride. I think Tom Cannon would probably like that ride again. I think he got caught a bit too far back on that occasion. And I think Edwardstone used up a lot of petrol to get into contention. I think he was just found out in the closing stages. His stamina just ebbed away. Connections think he'll come on a ton for it. He didn't have a brilliant preparation, obviously, after his fall at Kempton over Christmas.
He missed a bit of work as well.
And I just think this, he loves Cheltenham, 3 from 5 at the track. 9 horses have completed the Arkle Champion Chase double since 2002. And at the prices, I thought there was enough concerns about Energumene to be with Edwardstone. I'm interested to see what they do with Energumene, because when he burst onto the scene, he was a bit of a head case, wasn't he? He'd go out in front and free going sort. So I'll see, interested to see how they ride him, given there's Editor de Gite and Gentleman de Me who will put pace to the race. But I like Edwardstone. The gossip started for Nube Negra, as it always does when there's good
he wants ground quicker than Camprond.
In the going description, but I can't see that. So no, I was happy with Edwardstone. I think he's solid, dependable, and hopefully he can do the business for Alan King, who's already had success in the race before.
7-4 Edwardstone. Andy, where do you sit in the Champion Chase market this year?
Yeah, I haven't had a bet in the race. See how it shapes up on the day with regards ground. If I could find a sneaky little each way one, I might have a little bit of a crack away from the front end. But if forced to nominate one now, then I'd go Edwardstone. My view was similar to Danny's, doing the sort of time comparisons and the sectionals that day in the Clarence House. Is it Clarence House, wasn't it? Yeah.
Rearranged it.
Yeah. I think Tom Cannon was just riding the race to beat Energumene. And Energumene was trying to keep Edward de Gite in his viewfinder, and both of them probably underestimated Gary Moore's horse. But it was a day where the 3 chase winners all made all. That meeting always seems to have horses that make all the running on that chase track. Stage Star made all. Hoy Senior was either led or was in the first 2 throughout. Edward de Gite made all. It's just all about getting into rhythm and getting breathers in, and that's exactly what Editor de Gite managed to do. And Edwardstone was about 10 behind at the top of the hill. And the surge that he made from the home turn to the last, which looked as though it was going to carry him into a lead irresistibly, petered out. But the effort that he put in the hottest part of the race, obviously he paid for that, and that's the only reason Editor de Gite got back up. But he beat Energumene fair and square. And the fact that he put Energumene under pressure at the last, I think that forced Energumene to make his mistake as well. Yeah. And he tends to have a little bit of a default position of jumping to his right as well. And because Edwardstone was on his right-hand side and he wanted to go right, he completely just guessed at the last. If the ground was similar to last year, I think you could definitely make a case out for Energumene. But if it's good to soft or ground that it was like at the trials day, I think Edwardstone a confirmed form with Energumene, and I think he'll turn the form around with Editor de Gite. Gentleman of He's very much a spring ground horse. He's been at Edwardstone, so he's not a million. You could argue that Edwardstone was over the top by the time they raced at Aintree, and Gentleman had a fresher campaign. But he turned around the form with Blue Law to the tune of 48 lengths at the DRF. I mean, that was an incredible turnaround. But that was all down to good ground and the spring, and that's what his profile suggests, that he's a spring horse. So he's a player at 9-1 from an each way perspective. But I do think Edwardstone is the key to this race.
Another positive way for Edwardstone. Where do you see this? I mean, Ed currently, Gentleman Me, I should say, is currently 7-1, not 9-1 with Unibet. Ed, where do you stand?
Follow us in, Ed. Come on.
Yeah, I'm completing the hat trick.
Oh,
Yay!
Yeah.
Finally.
I was more thinking about, are you like having a ruckus with the Presby Park scarf in your?
Maybe.
Is it just because it's your namesake? Is that why? Just
No, not at all. I think Edwardstone, all the reasons mentioned, and also I think he couldn't sustain that bit of turbo needed. He was a gallop short. Remember, he tipped up at Kempton, so it was almost a run short. If you see what I'm saying, coming into that contest, I think he was strict fitter. I think he's the horse to beat essentially. Gentleman to me, bit of the joker in the pack. If he could, what I would worry is they're going to be a bit of a pace burn up here. If him and Edwardstone go hammer and tongs, could they cost each other the race? And so I could see the angle for a Nube, Negra and Grenadine, who are going to literally be racing the ambulance to come and pick up pieces and try and mop up the prize money at the running. If the ground was really quick, I could see that more so. Nube Negra, bit of cutting the ground, probably wouldn't be as much of a problem to Grenadine, who was only beaten a couple of lengths in this a couple of years ago. I could see him being anchored in last and trying to pick off rivals up the running. But Edwardstone's to lose in my view.
Edwardstone 7-4, getting a hat trick of.
I know. I'm just going. It's a day of favourites, isn't it? Maybe. Well, for me anyway.
Well, looking next up at the cross country chase, fast becoming the Gordon Elliott.
Benefit.
Yeah, benefit race. Delta Work is the 11-10 favourite. I mean, in fairness, obviously Tiger Roll. This was Tiger Roll's race for a long time, but last year this was one of the races. One of the greatest races in the festival in the last kind of decade between Delta Work and Tiger Roll.
Ever heard a winner get booed into the winner's enclosure? It was phenomenal scenes, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was, we talk a lot about horses that cannot go on soft ground. Anyone would tell you there's no chance Tiger Roll could put in that kind of performance, and obviously came so close, only to be touched off by stablemate Delta Work, who is the 11-10 favourite here with Unibet. That's the best price out there. But Galvin, sent off. Second favourite for the Gold Cup last year.
Yep.
Now pitching up here.
Fourth, isn't he? Yeah.
2-1 for the cross country. Franco de Port 6-1. Back on the lash 14-1, 20-1 Snow Leopardess. Gin on Lime 20-1 as well, and a few others in there too. Who's got a strong view on the cross country? I know sometimes some people want to give this a miss.
No view. One of the top two win, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm out.
Sometimes this race is actually quite a good betting heat. Particularly if you're looking for some horses to put in your each way multiples. You think, well, that can't be out the frame. It always runs well at the track. It's got a great record in the race. Blah blah blah.
Funny shape to it this year, though.
It's got a funny shape. I was just about to say that it's got a funny shape to it this year. Whereas Delta Work last year was the each way horse, wasn't it? Because Tiger Roll made the most market.
Yeah.
At odds on, he's not huge amount of appeal.
11-10.
11-10. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I suppose you could argue that.
Go off odds on.
Yeah, could go. I think he probably will. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although the inside track has probably got less chance of the cross country track's got less chance of it getting churned up because they can't water on it at all. Certainly throughout the course of the winter, anyway. Yeah. So look, I mean, I think Delta Work will probably win. I think Snow Leopardess at a price 20-1. Again, if you're looking on the day, if you're looking for betting without the favourite market, you might get sort of 12-1 for her. But she ran well behind. Back on the lash in Delta Work here last time out. That was her first run round the track, as far as I could see. And then she ran really well behind Quick Wave in that Haydock race the other day. That was a brutal test of stamina. There's only like 3 or 4 horses that went the gallop.
Peter Marsh, wasn't it?
Peter Marsh. Yeah. But she did have the cheek pieces on for the first time. So they seemed to just focus her attention a bit better than they did. So she's had a run around the track, so she's become more acclimatised to what she's going to be anticipating again for the second time, and I think that'll stand him in good stead. At 20-1, or a bet without the favourite on the day, you might get sort of 12-14-1 without. So shop around, maybe Snow Leopardess.
Snow Leopardess 20-1 as it stands now. I'll check and see if there's a without market, but I doubt.
Probably won't be at the moment, but there will be on the day.
No, there isn't. Danny, anything to add?
Galvin is obviously the one that adds intrigue to the race, and he does love Cheltenham, but I also think he's quite ground dependent. He'd probably prefer it good to soft. I think he schooled over the fences. They were happy with him when they took him to the track, but I think you sometimes need to look round once. I think that's why Snow Leopardess is interesting. Had that look round now, and
Jamie Cobb's going to ride, isn't it? I think that's the new.
Yeah, I think so. But for me, Delta Work sets the standard. I think he ran very well when third back in January. I think he didn't actually jump as well as he sometimes can, particularly made a couple of mistakes on the run for home at kind of the brush hurdle. So he'll be much fitter, strip fitter for that. He was sixth in the Boyne. Tiger Roll won that, I think, before winning this once. So Delta Work, and I think the each way players definitely Snow Leopardess at 16s.
20 to 1.
20 to 1, sorry.
There you go, agreeing with Andy. But nothing from Ed there. So Ed, we'll kick off with you for the Grand Annual, where we've got Dino Blue is the 6 to 1 favourite ahead of Ocon Risk, and Andy Dufresne at 8 to 1. Saint Roy, or Saint Roy, who knows, is 9 to 1 alongside Final Orders. 10 to 1 Unexpected Party with Third Time Lucky. Magic Days 12 to 1. Curse of Bleem 12 to 1. Dad's Lad 12 to 1. I mean, at this stage, we are still guessing.
We are. Especially with the top two in the market run. I see Oaken Risk, there's talk of running in the county.
I think
St. Wild could be in the Arkle.
This morning, there seems to have been a big move on the exchanges and Oaken Risk drifting here and shortening up for the county.
Exactly. So it's not inconceivable. I don't think, the top three in the market don't line up here.
Magic Days go for the mares, maybe.
Yeah, this is going to cut up big time. Andy Dufresne, obviously runner-up in it last year. Is going to have another crack at it and probably be, by default, kind of go favourite. No strong views on it again here, John Hugh George. I mean, the horse that's been well found in the anti-post markets is Rouge Vif, who does want some proper summer ground, who was obviously with Harry Whittington, went to Paul Nicholls, got bought back by 40,000 from Harry Whittington when the horse went through the sales because he loves him so much. He does need quick ground, but he's absolutely lobbed in off 137. I mean, he broke the track record. I think Andy might be able to confirm in that he ran off a huge weight in the October meeting 3 years ago at Cheltenham, and he ran them absolutely ragged on good ground. That was an amazing performance. That was off 150 something. He's off 137 here, but again, he would be as ground dependent as Camprond. So, I mean, he would be. What I'm saying, on soft ground, Rouge Vif might as well be 80s, to be honest with you. So no strong view on this. I just think that there are so many unknowns here. When we just said the top four in the market might not run, and it kind of tells you all you need to know about this. And I haven't got an obvious plot in. I've got a few for later on, but not in this one. So in the words of Duncan Bannatyne of Dragon's Den, I'm out.
Rouge Vif is 12 to 1 currently, not 80 to 1, but of course ground dependent, as you say. I mean, Danny, I always think when you've got a race like this where you can basically draw a line through half the field, that is surely an opportunity because there are going to be 2 or 3 in here. The when prices come back out 48 hours before the race are going to be a lot shorter than they are now. Can you find them for me?
Possibly. Andy Dufresne is interesting. He's back on it here off 155. This is a weird stat, but in the past 16 years, 9 of the previous year's favourites have returned and 3 of them have ended up winning. It's just his third start in a handicap, but he has proved underwhelming this year. He's a bit of the Camprond earlier in the card.
It's all about one day, though, isn't it? Yeah.
So he's interesting, but for me, Saint Segal, I'm with Jane Williams here. A bit of a rogue one for me, but he was far too keen in the Boodles last year. But I think fences have made a bit of a man of him. He should have won last time out if he was ridden more aggressively. Still improving. He's up £3. I thought off 139 may be interesting. And Rouge Viv, I think Kevin Blake's put it up on a preview, so that's why the price has collapsed. But yeah, I think the career high was 163, 164. And is now off 137. But as Ed has said, is ground dependent. So I've got my British tattoo on again here, George, and I'm sticking with the Brits.
I was just say, sorry to butt in here. Yeah, I must mention the Ben Pauling run. I've never let it down. Last year's winner, Global Citizen, does run again.
Yeah.
And he's only £3 higher. So he's not a million that he could run a big race. I just wonder if Father Time has got ahead of him. But we were talking about previous winners. Yeah. Last year's winner is lining up according to Ben.
Global Citizen 20 to 1 currently, and Saint Segal 14 to 1. Saint Segal with just the one entry, which I think when you're having a bet a week before the Grand Annual is kind of what you're after, isn't it? Because at least you know where they're going to...
Yeah, because Third Time Lucky's going to entry as well, so Skeleton's going to run an unexpected party.
That might go off favourite.
Yeah, I think
Andy Dufresne, they're the kind of two that will...
It will collapse, won't it, this race?
Yeah.
So,
Andy?
Yeah, Harry Whittington's been probably a little bit too clever for his own good with Rouge Vif. He's managed to get him down from 149 to 137 in 3 runs this season. And I thought he showed signs of life last time out at Donny. Actually went really well in the hands of Sean Quinlan. He got off and said that gave him a great feel and you'll be fine for the rest of the season for him. how he's got a lot of work into him. He's been on Gastrogard for a long time now, which is stuff that clears up ulcers, which were plaguing him. That's why he wasn't running so good. And he worked at Newbury the other day solo, and he flew around. Gavin Sheehan got off him and said he's absolutely spot on. So this has been the plan for a while. Unfortunately, he's become a little bit of the wise guy horse, isn't he? Everyone wants to be with him. I think he's a poor price now at 14. 33s you can...
Especially the rain would do him the bit.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't back him at 14s, but, good luck to those that backed him at a price. I've had one bet in the race so far. I might have another, but I've backed Santiago as well.
I'm on it. Thank you.
Well, I waited for the non-runner no bet scenario to come into play because I wasn't sure whether he'd run because I don't know whether Jane Williams is going to be brave enough because he's only a 5-year-old and there's not many 5-year-olds that A, running it or B, win it. He might lack a little bit of experience, but he ran really well behind Malay Stick last time out. In the race at Rouge Vif was 60 and they went a good gallop that day. And to my eyes, he stayed on incredibly strong. And straight, I wrote in my notes, Grand Annual, stiff track, and don't forget this is run on the old course, the new course, which should really play into his strengths. That long run from 3 out down to 2 out, where he can gather up a head of steam. That's provided he's in contention and still there, of course. Will really help him. And nothing will be finishing stronger than Santiago. He's run 3 incredibly quick time figures for a novice this season. 1 at Chepstow, 1 at Hereford, and then in that race behind Melia Stick against the older horses, so that sort of cut his teeth. Like I said, I don't know whether this is absolutely 100% certain he's going to run. I've tried to find out. I've got someone who knows the Jane Williams stable, and they are still thinking about it quite seriously. The other one I quite like is Unexpected Party. You've mentioned him in dispatches.
Don't particularly fancy him, but I could see him going off half the price he is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he probably wants further than what he's going to get here. This
is
is
the Holden Gold Cup trip, doesn't he?
Probably,
doesn't quite get home over 2-4 and looks a little bit outpaced over 2.
Yeah, at least this is 2-1 on the new course.
This is the old course. This would be on.
Is it?
Yeah, it used to be on the new course.
Of course it is. Yeah. Beg your pardon. It's day 2, isn't it, rather than day
yeah.
3? I've almost completely missed a day.
Oh, you've been on after 28 preview nights. Preview days as they are now. Look.
Yeah, well, I'll still go back to originally what I've said about him. I do think he wants further than 2 miles, ideally. So that track would definitely not play into his strengths. So that's a bit of a concern. I think the best handicapped horse in the race, without a shadow of a doubt, is Dino Blow. How that's got 140, I do not know. Impervious is the best mare I've seen so far this season, and she got within 3 lengths of her at Cork in a graded race, and then ran well behind Magic Days last time out when, again, Magic Days got first run. Just can't get out the back of my mind that she ran so badly when she was 11-8 favourite in last year's Mayor's Hurdle. That's the only negative with her. But yeah, I've backed Santiago non-run no bet, so if it runs, happy days. If not, then we'll wait for it when it does run next time.
Finally, the champion bumper now. A Dream to Share is it's for me, is the 7-2 favourite ahead of A Dream to Share at 4-1. Fun, 7-1, 9-1, Chapeau de Soleil, 10-1, Better Days Ahead, and Western Diego, 12-1 bar those. Feels, Andy, I mean, your time figures are obviously very helpful when it comes to assessing what bumper horses have done, especially ones that just have a lot of ones next to their name. But the market, it feels like, has got this race spot on for the last 2 years, where there have been 2 quality horses right up at the top end who've then finished first and second, clear of the rest. Bit trickier, this looks like a more open heat, which maybe if you could shed light on which one we should be backing, there might be a price to boot.
Yeah, well, the 2 strongest run races so far this season are both taking place at Leopardstown at the big meeting. So just by design, those races are going to be more strongly run. They get the better horses in it. They go stronger gallop. The race at Facile Mode won at Christmas was a really good time. That was the quickest we've got so far. And he got well put in his place next time out by A Dream to Share, who clocked a good number when he won that day for the John Carley camp. He's now in the care of JP McManus, who's quite keen to buy him. So he obviously liked what he saw that day. And he beat all the right horses in inverted commas, i.e. Facile Mode, etc., etc. So he's the one who's done it on the numbers at championship level. So if you fancy A Dream to Share, who's now favourite, I couldn't put you off. It's, for me, was the most visually impressive. I'm not sure whether Patrick Mullins will ride him or ride Fun, who won at the DRF. thought Fun's race wasn't all that what it was cracked up to be. Didn't think there was a great strength in depth that day. But I did like It's For Me when he won at Navan. I thought he was silky smooth and his time was pretty good without being sensational, but it was a time figure good enough to suggest that he could easily cut his teeth in Grade 1 company. So I'd go with the market here. Unfortunately, I haven't got anything sneaky at a big price. The horse of Willie Mullins is at 1 at Punchestown the other week. I think he's the best horse going forward. The Ronnie Bartlett owned horse, I can't remember his name, Bally something.
Ballyburn.
Yeah, he's the nicest one I've seen this season. He doesn't go. So if I was going to have a bet at the prices, I'd probably say Dream to Share.
4-1.
If I could get an each way price about him with 4 or 5 places on the day, I don't think he'd be too far wrong with that because he's already proven it. A good standard.
Dream to Share, 4-1 with Unibet. Currently only 3 places, but keep an eye out on the day. Danny?
Fun. One to note here is Edwardstone. Patrick Mullins bred the horse, but I think he's going to struggle to get down to that. So I don't think he will ride Fun. I think It's For Me makes more sense. A Dream to Share, I think, should be favourite. I think it's got the best form. That race solid enough for me. I like the form of the win at Leopardstown was giving £3. Done well for the Gleasons, and obviously now JP's taken over ownership. I think if it was a Willie Mullins train runner, it might be much shorter. So I'm all over Dream to Share. And at a price, It's For Me and Western Diego both beat the same horse. I don't know about the times. Andy might say Western Diego did a terrible time, but there was 6.5 lengths between Sutton's Hill and Western Diego. Okay, 10 lengths It's For Me. But I sometimes think Willie, he could run 5, 6 or 7 in this. So maybe one of the others at a price. He was the one that made appeal for me. But A Dream to Share, I'm pretty strong on John Kiley's charge.
We got, just to give you some context, what Western Diego did and how slowly run that was. The top rated horse we've got in this is 68.
There you go.
Dream to Share, 62. Western Diego, 25.
There you go.
So literally they were crawling and then they quickened. That's all that run tells you, that Western Diego quickened off a very, very pedestrian pace.
Ed, anything to add on the champion?
I've not had a bet, but I might go against the wave of Irish optimism in this. Just purely, there's a horse that it's just subjective, isn't it? In the sense that I was on the rails when Favour and Fortune whizzed past me at Warwick, and I couldn't believe
that's a good horse.
The way in which he hit the line. Tom Cannon could barely pull him up. Now there's talk they'd probably wait for entry. It probably, but Alan King, last time I read in some bulletins, refused to rule it out, was the line. It sounds like they're favouring entry, but look, the form's largely untested. It was a nothing race, but he won 8 lengths pulling a cart. Wouldn't it be your usual type of bumper, kind of a late Trevor Hemmings owned Alan King type, wouldn't be your usual go-to bumper, but I mean, the way he did it, he's a horse with serious gears. He'll be a smashing chaser in time. Be intrigued. It'd be a sign of the confidence if they do roll the dice here, because Alan King doesn't tend to waste his time with the champion bumper, if you're the same with also ran. So, but Favour and Fortune just looks a lovely 5-year-old prospect for the future, regardless. He's one to keep in your notebook.
Favour and Fortune 16-1 with Unibet at the moment. Obviously, non-run, no bet as well. So if they do go for entry and don't turn up here, you'll get your money back. That brings our day 2 preview to a close. Thank you very much to the guys for sharing their tips with us there. We're going to record day 3 and day 4 shortly, so do make sure you subscribe to the Oddschecker YouTube channel where you can find the previews for all 4 days of the Cheltenham Festival. Thank you to Unibet again for sponsoring the show. There is that Unibet new custom offer that you can find in the description below. Deposit £10 and get money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses, plus a £10 casino bonus. T's and C's do apply. Fingers crossed, we've given some winners on day 2. We're about to record day 3. In the meantime, enjoy the racing and please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.